What's good, everybody? Welcome back to the All Things Basketball podcast. As you can see, I've been scratched by my dog this morning. Scratched the shit out of me. But anyways, I was not planning on recording any more pods this weekend. Like, I did my work. I uploaded some videos before Game 7, and I put my stuff away, and I was like, all right, now I can chill. It's a chill little Sunday. I can just relax and just wait for this game to start tonight. And KD gets traded. He throws a monkey wrench into this entire day, into this Game 7, right? Like, just completely hijacking that. I mean, the media is going to be all over that in the middle of the game. So, you know, that part of it is going to be, I mean, you could say it's annoying, but you could also say, you know what, more content. It is what it is. And I'm recording in my kitchen, as you can see, which obviously, as you can tell, I did not have this planned at all. So I'm just going off of pure, just off the top of my head, no notes, nothing. Mixed thoughts around everywhere. Right? Like, just, I've gotten people already texting me. I've seen obviously a million posts. You already know how it goes. A player of this magnitude getting traded, a team that feels like they can get over the hump. Another one of those ripple effects of OKC Pacers finals, right? In my opinion, I really think that that's really what's turned the tide here for a lot of teams around the league. You get the Desmond Bane trade from the Orlando Magic. Now we have this one, and that's not going to be done here. I mean, let's wait and see what happens with the Milwaukee Bucks, because that's another little interesting part of it. I didn't think we'd see a KD trade so early. Everything was trending to the San Antonio Spurs. That was everything that was out there. And I'm already imagining, okay, cool. Wemby gets to really have KD, you know, he can be under KD's wing for an entire season. We know the deal with KD right now. It's an investment because he's an expiring contract. He's going to be an unrestricted free agent. He's making $50+ million this season. So, like, if you trade for him, you are trying to win right now. So, and shout out to the Spurs trying to say, hey, look, man, like, we'll take that gamble on KD. We think we can re-sign him. From everything that you could see online, it looked like KD wanted to go to San Antonio. So that was also interesting, you know, and it would have been cool to see just one unicorn passing the torch to another, right? In terms of these 7-footers with all the guard skills that they have. But unfortunately, that's not something we're going to see. And honestly, I don't know what it would have looked like, their ceiling, right? Obviously, they'd be a way better team. But who knows? You know, Houston clearly was going to ask for a ransom, like a king's ransom for KD. And the Spurs are probably like, we're not going to give you Castle. You know, we're not giving up the second pick or whatever. You know, in my opinion, I think the Spurs dodged a bullet. You know, because you add KD to the mix, you're probably coming off of, obviously, your second overall pick. You're also coming off is it the second pick? Yeah, it's the second pick. And they're also coming off of, you know, like a season where it's like Chris Paul's a year older. You got the De'Aaron Fox thing in the mix that's still, you know, you don't know how that's really going to look. So, you know, there's a lot of question marks around that versus you're looking at the Rockets. This is a team that won 52 games without a go-to player, without a true shot creator, without a star, like, one-man show, right? They really, that was the most impressive thing that they did, in my opinion. And it's why I thought Ime Udoka was going to win Coach of the Year. I mean, I feel like he was disrespected around. Like, when you look at the voting stuff and, like, who people are talking about, it was definitely a deserving coach. Kenny Atkinson was obviously another person that, well, he won the Coach of the Year award, you know, but there was also no talk about the Celtics, right, with Joe Mazzulla, and somewhere in the mix, you know, people just kind of stopped mentioning Ime Udoka's name, and this was a team that did it with defense, you know, and like I said, no true go-to guy. So I think the Rockets look at this season. They went to Game 7, even though, you know, they played against a team with no Steph Curry for the majority of that series. And, you know, they're walking away thinking, man, KD in this series, we come out on top. And, you know, the next series, you play Minnesota, and you're thinking, all right, like, this could go either way. You know, I mean, we have the youth to deal with Minnesota. We have the defense. We could have potentially looked at ourselves in the mirror and said, we're in the conference finals. So, look, I got a little bit ahead of myself. So let me talk about just my thoughts on this trade. I think when you're looking at it right away, similar to that Bane thing, the Desmond Bane trade, a lot of picks are involved. And people are going to look at that and obviously say this is way too much for KD. You know, you gave up 2 players as well, plus obviously the pick from this season, which is the 10th pick? I don't even remember the number of it. Is it a lot of picks for a player that's on his way out, so to speak? Because he's, 37? Yes, it's a lot of picks for a 37-year-old. This is not your average 37-year-old. And I know some Rockets fans that did not want to see this happen. They did not want to see KD traded to this team, giving up assets like future players and current talent that's like, hopefully you're waiting to become stars and things like that. But let's look at it from just what they have right now. I like what they added in Kevin Durant. I mean, I think that this is exactly what Houston needed to be a real contender. They needed a go-to player. They got one of the best. They got one of the best go-to players in the history of the league. They got one of the best shot creators ever, right? And he is still playing at an all-time level. The only thing holding him back, and it's what everyone is going to maybe tell me after this video, is, okay, well, he's old and he's injury prone. And yes, all of that is true. This is a massive gamble. And by the way, this is a higher risk, high reward than the Orlando Magic trading for Desmond Bane. Obviously, because Desmond Bane fits the timeline, so you have a little more time to figure that out, right? Versus with KD, he's an injury away from you're back where you started, and now you have less people to help you, right? Because you're giving up more players for less. So that part of it, I understand. Now, let's talk about the Jaylen Green thing. Jaylen Green is a unique talent at his position, right? He's a guy that has just his highlights. If you don't watch Jaylen Green night to night, you're convinced that this was a horrendous trade, and you're convinced that the Rockets blew it, right? They lost a player with just potential oozing out of him, right? And you could be right in making an assessment that this guy is super talented and his potential, his ceiling is relatively high. But when you're watching him 4 seasons in a row and he looks like the same player, maybe he's, his decision-making has improved. Like if you watch him every season and you just go through all his games on League Pass or wherever you prefer to watch your games, you see the same player, right? Just a little more refined in a way, just with his moves. Obviously, that happens as you get older in the league. You just know how to go get your buckets. But you look at the splits, you look at the shooting, you look at the method of scoring, and it just looks the same, right? He's still not a good mid-range shooter. He still doesn't do well against physical wings, right? Physical guards, guys that could just bump him, and he loses balance. He takes these bad shots, and he's just never been efficient. And you love what you see out of him in those bursts, right? Like he has incredible games that probably reset the Rockets' thought process. Like, man, we can't give up on this guy. Like, look at what he's doing. Look at the way he snakes these pick and rolls, which is one of my favorite things that guards can do, right? Like I talk about that a lot, snaking pick and rolls, but I love watching Jaylen Green's handles, and just, he's a very highlight tape guy, like this guy is just a walking highlight mix, right? In my opinion, this guy puts you on posters. He's got those crazy dunks, those crazy drives, the body control around the rim, and just, he does amazing things, but I don't like the shot mechanics. I don't like that elbow all the way to the side. Everything just looks wrong when I watch this guy shoot the ball, and I never think it's going in. Period. I really never think that a Jaylen Green shot is going in. And when you watch him in this playoff series, which, look, man, you can hit me back with it's his first playoff series. He's still very young. He could be a late bloomer. That's what teams are going to convince themselves of when they trade for this guy. And I already saw another post that says the Suns are potentially moving him again. So that should tell you, like, if you see the amount of picks that have to be attached to this trade, not to mention you're also putting one of the league's better point of attack defenders in Dillon Brooks, which kind of gets swept under the rug here. You're giving up one of the better Rockets point of attack defenders here, and he was also a guy that was getting buckets for them. So when you have to attach all these things, that kind of lets you know what the perception is around the league, or at least for the Suns, right? When it comes to Jaylen Green, because you have to attach all this stuff to give him to a team, right? Like if Jaylen Green was as good as a lot of people really think he is right now, they wouldn't need all those picks. Like the Dillon Brooks thing, you got to make the money work, right? Like I think that's why this whole thing happened with Dillon Brooks as well. But, like I said, you're attaching all that stuff because this dude is looking like he's trending more towards we missed on the draft rather than, oh no, we got a potential star here, right? So, and I think that's why you see the secondary report where the Suns are potentially going to move him again. So, if you're Jaylen Green, man, this has to be a fire under your ass, right? Like you have a horrendous playoff run. You haven't really grown as a player in terms of your shooting ability, you haven't really grown in terms of like being a reliable defender out there, especially in crunch time. Like when a player that's younger than you is taking your minutes in crunch time, like we're seeing Amin Thompson, and Amin Thompson, everyone already thinks that Amin Thompson's going to be a better player than Jaylen Green. And I'm on that boat. I think Amin Thompson's already better than him. Okay. And if he's not already better, he's going to be better. I'm confident in that. I'll gamble on that right now. And, when you start to see that stuff and you're Jaylen Green, it's got to frustrate you because he has confidence in himself. His game tells you that he has the ultimate confidence in his own ability. So like when you're seeing a guy, you're getting pulled in the most important moments in a game because you can't keep a guy in front of you, and you're also making stupid decisions on offense, and you're not making shots, and you're kind of a zero out there on offense sometimes. It makes it hard to play you, and it makes it hard for other people around the league to be like, oh yeah, we'll take him straight up. Hell no, you got to attach picks to this guy because we don't even know if he's really going to become what a lot of people thought he was going to become. This is the second overall pick in the draft that's about to get moved again, potentially, that had to have picks attached to him. I think from that perspective, the Rockets did what they had to do to make that jump, because I really think Jaylen Green was just going to be the same type of guy this upcoming season, and we already kind of know what that ceiling is like. Maybe a second round, right? Because guys are a little more comfortable. They kind of know what they had to do. They played a game 7. So you could kind of convince yourself into thinking that you're a few good decisions away and maybe some shots made away from, getting to that next round. But every season is a life of its own, and you can't really think like that for the most part. So do I like this trade? I do. I actually like this trade. And the reason I do like this trade is because KD is going to be surrounded by dogs on the defensive end. He's going to be surrounded by good youth. He's going to have a great coach as well that keeps players accountable. We know the turnaround that Ime Udoka's already done with this team. So him having a guy he can go to and a guy he can kind of scheme as well, because KD, though he is older, you can't expect much of him on the defensive end. He's got some length that's going to help in passing lanes. And I'm sure Ime Udoka's got a whole bunch of ideas for that, right, in terms of schemes for defense. And when you're putting an older player on a team full of dogs that can play defense at the level of like an OKC Thunder or an Orlando Magic, but also guys that can just get out and run and play fast, and they have the energy, and they kind of have a good balance of like, we're going to do the things that KD isn't good at, and we're also going to do the things that complement KD's game. Like, they may not have, one thing they're going to have to answer is the shooting problem, because KD doesn't solve that alone. Right? He's going to solve their half-court offense creation situation, right? He's going to solve their last seconds, who do we give it to situation, right? He's going to solve their three-point shooting, right? I mean, this guy's a great shooter as well. And he's also a veteran who's won championships. He's been through it all, right? And for a lot of people, this is like, okay, how many teams are we going to see KD jump to? How long before he's unhappy with this team and all that stuff? I keep that all away, because what I care about is just like the off-court stuff isn't that important to me. I like to just talk about the basketball stuff on this pod. I feel like you open a can of worms when you start talking about other things. So just basketball, I think he fits perfectly. Now, I also think that something that's being slept on, as long as they don't move this guy, is how much he can mentor Jabari Smith, right? Similar play styles, a guy that is a jump shooter at 6'11 or 6'10, however tall Jabari Smith Jr. is. He can learn a lot from KD. Not just shooting, but ball handling at the size and, all those things that come with it, right? So having KD as a nice little example is probably not the worst thing for a guy like Jabari Smith Jr. and for anyone on this team, right? So, you look at it from a perspective of this is to win next season, right? And if they don't win next season, it's a failure, right? And I like that the Rockets are going out swinging, because they're seeing the West. The Nuggets are in a pretty interesting situation where, they could look pretty cooked. I mean, you got the best player in the NBA still, in my opinion, in Jokic, but the Michael Porter Jr. thing, injuries starting to stack up, not looking great. The contract's looking crazier and crazier. And, if you move him, what do you get back for him, right? Like, I don't know. I don't know. And how can you improve? Like, who's taking Michael Porter Jr. at what he's getting paid, especially when they see the injuries plaguing him? So that's another part of it. So do you move Aaron Gordon? And it's like Aaron Gordon is arguably a more valuable piece than Michael Porter Jr. right now. He does a little bit of everything. He's not really a liability, and he improved his shooting this season. So you could also convince yourself this is a better player than he was last year. So, but if you move Aaron Gordon, there goes your great combination of a Swiss Army knife guy. There are not a lot of Aaron Gordons out there in the league, bro, if any at all right now. So you're going to let go of that nice two-man game between him and Jokic, having that lob threat in the backdoor where he chills in the dunker spot, or he's catching shooting from three, or he's playing multiple positions defensively. He's going and crashing the boards, doing all the dirty work. That's going to be a guy that you don't want to let go, in my opinion. So, okay, so they don't let go of Aaron Gordon. So how do they improve the roster? Jamal Murray is not aging well, in my opinion. Like, this guy, you feel less and less confident about him every season. At least I do. And this is a guy that's shown still flashes of the greatness, but I start to lose confidence every season that goes by with a guy that's had his injury history and a guy that keeps showing you that he slows down, and he slows down during the regular season. You need to win a lot of games. You need to get some home court advantage when you get to the playoffs, or the odds are stacked against you. Unless you don't believe in home court advantage, which I guess this playoff season, this postseason could tell you that, right? You could feel good about that take. But, so the Nuggets, kind of a question mark, right? Still going to be good, but question mark. And then you're looking at Oklahoma City, right? This is a team that obviously they're going to be the kings of the West, right? They're going to be the guys you got to knock out, right? If you want to get out of the West. And you could safely assume the OKC is going to be right back to the conference finals next season, right? You never know what's going to happen. Obviously, you can't predict so far ahead, but, all things considered, if the things remain constant and the OKC is healthy again, that's a safe assumption. Other than that, who else are you really afraid of if you're Houston? Like I said, you got those 52 wins without a go-to guy, and now you got him. So you could feel good about it. Now, how it's going to fit with Şengün, that's the part that's interesting, because Şengün has improved as a defender a lot. Is he an elite defender and, oh my God, all defense? No. But he's improved a lot. Positioning, footwork, angling, IQ on the defensive end. A lot of that stuff has improved a lot. If you've watched him this season, you see the improvements. And a lot of that could also be Ime Udoka just putting him in positions to be successful and putting him in the best places, right, as often as possible. So I also think, obviously, when you're surrounded by incredible defenders, it also is going to hide you a lot better, right? So, but I would like to see that. Şengün is a great passer at his position, one of the better passers at center. And it's going to be interesting to see how he gels with KD, right? Because he is a pass-first guy, right? And he likes to do it out of the post. He likes to do it at the free throw line. He likes to do it with his back to the basket. So it's going to be interesting when there's a lot of gravity with KD, because Şengün is a very good post player. Great footwork. He can score around the rim with the best of them. So, my question with Şengün is the shooting, right? And hopefully maybe KD on that team maybe he'll give him some pointers, right? You hope for that too. So that'll be interesting to see. Amin Thompson, obviously another year in the books for him next season, and you hope that he improves. And if he doesn't improve and he's as good as he was this season, that's still a damn good player, right? So I feel like I'm rambling a little bit, but I like this trade for the Rockets if KD is healthy. Now, obviously, if KD gets injured and they're forced to play like 50 games without him, that's where it starts to haunt you back, right? Especially with the fan base, right? Because I already know that there are a ton of fans, Rockets fans, that are not happy with this trade. But I think that when you see the window of opportunity and you feel like you're a player away from it or a move away from it, and I think they can do another move. Like, I'm hearing a lot of Cam Whitmore trade potential, right? So that's another guy that they can think, maybe we move this guy and we can bring someone that contributes right now, like an older player, right? And they go for this win now window. There's a lot of Rockets fans that want to just continue this build and good trajectory, and eventually we'll get to the top. But I really respect the teams that believe, hey man, we're so good right now and we could be so much better with an extra move. And this is what it means. This is what they believe. So shout out to the Rockets. I think that they've made incredibly good draft picks, even though I just knocked Jaylen Green. But they've had good draft selections. We still have yet to see what Reed Shepherd is, right? I'm a fan of him. I think, maybe he gets moved. I don't know. Like once a team makes a move like this, no one is safe. Right. So it'll be interesting to see what else happens. Right. Do they continue to build more pieces to this team? Because I've already talked to some people that think that this isn't enough and there's not enough help for KD. I disagree with that. I think this team has a lot that complements KD. Now, where it could improve is the shooting, because when you only have one reliable shooter on that team, even though, Van Vliet, I wouldn't call him a shooter. He is a hot and cold guy. He's very streaky. But you can't rely on that every night, right? Because you see the bad shooting splits sometimes. So, they're going to have to figure that out, right? The shooting, the spacing. Because, like KD on that early, that OKC run, that was one of the biggest problems. That KD was surrounded by guys that just could not space the floor for him. And it just made things very difficult, and it made them really predictable. And we're kind of seeing that with the Thunder right now. What happens when you have this incredible shot creator, isolation scorer in Shea, but guys aren't hitting around him, right? And now all of a sudden the defense can collapse better. They can focus you better. They can help. They can cheat away and then worry about contesting later. And that's going to be the game plan against the Rockets until guys start hitting shots. So, that's really my biggest concern fit-wise is the spacing on the floor. So we'll see if they continue. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I will catch you guys on the next one.